This is Knowledge Engineering with Semantic Web Technologies, lecture number 6, Knowledge Engineering. And this is the last part of the official part of this lecture. And today we want to talk about exploratory search as an extension of traditional search and an extension of semantic search. For that, we are trying first to explain what exploration or exploratory search really means. And for that, of course, we are using traditional examples, like, for example, in a library. And first, we want to look at to distinguish what is retrieval versus exploration. Of course, first let's start with the retrieval problem. So we are looking for something specific in retrieval. So usually this means that you know what you are looking for. And often also you know how to describe your search request. So you know how to specify your search request. So for a book, this would be, for example, the name of the author or the title or other kind of metadata, content-based, that are available to specify exactly your information needs. So for this, usually you are using unique identifiers if possible, or some descriptive metadata to find what you are looking for. So this is the kind of retrieval. So if you try, for example, to find exactly this book, From the Earth to the Moon, what are you doing then? Of course, in a library, you try to look it up somewhere in the library index. And there, of course, all the resources of the library, all the books, they are ordered, for example, alphabetically by their authors. And therefore, you would find here From the Earth to the Moon, authored by Jules Verne, in the according library index card. And there on the index card, you see this here, this small yellow card. Usually it was organized previously in paper cards. Today, of course, it's in a file on the computer. In these paper cards, you would find the complete title, you would find publishing information, additional metadata. But what is much more important on that, you would also find the place where you can look up the original book in the library. And this usually was in some kind of shelf together with other books. So this would be retrieval. You know the author, you know exactly where to look it up, and you also know how to look it up, simply because you are able somehow to phrase exactly your information need, and you know the process, how you get to the information you need. So how to find a book? I must name the author. And if I know the author, I know where to look it up and how to find the book. So this is retrieval. You find it simply because you know how to specify exactly what you are looking for. Yeah, but consider you have read this book now, and now you are looking for something else, for something comparable which will also interest you. Yeah, this is of course a difficult question. So how do I find books on the same or on related topics? So how did, for example, when I'm interested in how the author has developed, how has the topic developed over time, and what else would I like to read? So these are questions that are not necessarily easily answered with the help of the library index. So what did you do? Sure, of course, usually in the library, you went to the librarian and you asked the librarian, so what should I read next? Can you recommend me something? And then the librarian gave you a suggestion what to read next, or where to find something which is comparable to what you have read and which will somehow come close to your information needs. And of course, what we are missing in traditional search and information retrieval is this friendly librarian who helps us with our search. So what we want to find here, of course, are other kind of books that I would like to read that are somehow related to my books, which could be, of course, books from the same author, but could also be books on the same topic, or could be much more advanced, for example. The topic could have developed over time. So this would be interesting, but for that I would have to start some kind of exploration, which brings us to the topic of exploratory search. Okay, so interestingly, traditional libraries enable exploratory search. So where do you find the book? Of course, you find it in the shelf. So you look at the neighbors And in libraries, usually libraries follow the tradition that, of course, the content of their shelves is ordered, it's categorized. So, for example, science fiction novel, they will all stand somehow together, and in the shelf maybe they are even alphabetically ordered, for example. And therefore, if you are interested in another book which interests you, and if you have read From the Earth to the Moon, then probably you will go to the shelf where you find this book and simply look to the left, to the right, above and below, and maybe you find something else which will be of interest for you. So traditional libraries, because of their organization with shelves, and you see then the books in the shelves, they enable exploratory search. And the interesting thing is our friendly librarian, of course, can give you intelligent recommendations. So the librarian is a perfect recommender system. If you specify your needs, he will recommend you something which might be interesting for you. So these are the benefits of the traditional library. And the question, of course, is can we also give equivalent means in the web with the help of search engines and recommender engines? Possible, yeah. But we have to look how to do that. For this, first we have to understand the concept of exploratory search. So what is exploratory search? So usually exploratory search represents the activities carried out by searchers who are either, first, unfamiliar with the domain. So if I don't know about the domain of my search goal, it's difficult for me to formulate the search goal. So I need to learn about the topic in order to understand how to achieve the goal. So if I have no idea about, let's say, early science fiction novels and about the writers there, but if I'm interested in, but if I lack the vocabulary to name that, I have to learn about that. Also, if I'm unsure about the way to achieve my goal, so if I do not know about the technology or the process, so let's consider the old text-based search engines. Usually in the web, these search engines were considering documents as a result that contained somehow the text of your search query. And only if you understand this relation, you were really also able to find something again on the web, because you know that technology, how this really works. So you must know about the search process, about the search technology to achieve your goal. If you don't know that, you have to learn, you have to explore. And the other thing is sometimes you just try to find something, but you cannot really specify what you are looking for. So it might be that you just want to find something interesting, like, for example, in the case we want to find something else to read, but we do not know exactly what to read. So what would you suggest? So if I'm unsure about my definite goal in the first place, then what I have to do is an exploration of my possibilities. And then, of course, I might specify a more concrete, a more specific search request. So this is the situation when exploratory search really comes into play. And then, of course, it's a thing which is closely related more to browsing instead of really searching. So I'm looking through the search space. And for example, when I start usually with no specific goal, or also if I start with a specific goal, during the course of my search, things might pop up or occur which are suddenly really interesting to me. So this effect, you might know that, is called as serendipity effect. So a serendipitous discovery. So discovery by chance of something which is valuable, but you haven't thought of it in advance. So it was an unintentional finding. So this is enabled by exploratory search. Another situation where this is also quite nice is if you want to get an overview over a specific topic. So you all know that in web search, for example, if you try to consider an arbitrary search term, if you put that to Google and if you look in the results, you might see, okay, there are millions of answers, and you have no way to determine whether these millions of answers, whether the answer now is complete, because you have no chance to look at all the documents that are presented there. So to get an overview might be really difficult. And also traditional search engines always present you the results in terms of lists. And these, of course, they are ordered by the quality of their results, so which is most closely related to your search query. But you have only a linear way of navigation, and you can also think in an exploratory search of a more sophisticated way of navigating your search space. So this is also part then of exploratory search. Now the question is, how can we enable exploratory search, for example, based on linked data? So first thing, if I want to find a specific resource with the help of linked data, it's easy. So if you want to find From the Earth to the Moon, if we know the title of that book, of course we might find it here in its according DBpedia page. So this is quite easy. So we will find From the Earth to the Moon. This is quite simple. But now the question is, how can we achieve our exploration? So the exploratory search goal. So of course we can take into account all the relations among our first found entity From the Earth to the Moon to all the other entities within the knowledge base. So we can find out that what we have looked for, or the thing in our consideration, is a book. We can find out who is the author of the book. We can find out, for example, who is influenced or who has been influenced by that author. And we can also find other books that are somehow in relation with our book. The question is only, which kind of thing I should recommend in my exploratory search process. So what is a good result, what is a bad result, considered the kind of relation it stands to my originally searched result. How can I do that? So if we stick to our example, we have several possibilities. So for example, I can look for books, or I can look for things that have a direct connection to my original result. So I have here From the Earth to the Moon, and I see there are two books directly connected with my books. My original book, which is subsequent work, then it's a Journey to the Center of the Earth, and it's a previous work, so In Search of the Castaways. And the nice thing, of course, these are resources which are of the same type as my original resource. So this I can take as a hint that these are resources I might really be interested in if I look at the same type. So this then gives me something like, in quotes, a good suggestion. Now you might say, okay, if there is a direct connection and if the type is the same, so potentially these kind of results, they are too close to what I was originally looking to. So you know this, if you recommend something and if it's too similar to the original thing you were reading, for example, then it soon starts to be boring. You want to be a little bit more surprised. So we have to go a bit farther away. Okay, next thing what we could look for our book, for example, would be, let's look at the author of the book. And then, of course, we could say, there are for sure several other books that have been written by that author. So we are looking for other things that are also connected to this author in the same way like our original item, and that are of the same type. So we are also looking for books of the same author. So, but they do not necessarily have now a direct connection to our original resource. So they might be a little bit farther away. So they are not directly related with the original resource. They are only related by the author. Staying with our library example, this might again be too close to our original result. So let's go a little bit farther away. So the next possibility, we have already seen this on the very first slide, would be, okay, so now let's go one step further. So we have the author, then let's look for something similar like the author, so it should be the same type, and both authors then should be somehow connected, like for example, they are influencing each other. So this would be interesting. And now I'm looking for things that have the same relation to this new author like my original book. So what I'm looking for now are then books here from H.G. Wells, who was influenced by Jules Verne. And now I find other books like The Invisible Man, The Island of Dr. Moreau, or The War of the Worlds. And of course, they might be interesting to me, and they are a little bit farther away than my original findings, which were the books of Jules Verne. So you see, I take an additional step, and also the principle how I achieved this, of course, can somehow be generalized. You do not have to restrict this on books. Of course, you can restrict it also to other kind of resources. And this then again enables some kind of exploration of the available search space. And of course, you are looking first in the closer proximity, and then you can go farther away according to your preferences. Let's look at another example. So linked database exploration can also start with another kind of object. We can start with Neil Armstrong, who is not an author. But where will lead our search if we start with Neil Armstrong? So our exploration might lead us to the original mission of Neil Armstrong, which is the DBpedia, which is the Apollo 11 mission, and of course to the other crew members of that mission, which are Michael Collins and Buzz Aldrin. So you might say now, okay, these are a little bit too close to my original search. Let's look further. What else is available here? So, for example, Apollo 11 is part of the Apollo program, and then you might look at the other missions which are also part of the Apollo program, like Apollo 13. You might remember there was a movie because there was some kind of an incident, especially with this kind of Apollo mission, Apollo 13. So this was a space accident and incident, so you can see that this resource Apollo 13 is also of type space accident and incidents. And then if you look at other resources which are connected to the space accident and incidents, you might end up here with the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. And of course, this is something which over a path you see here among the knowledge base or within the knowledge base is connected with our original resource. And it's a bit away, but nevertheless it's connected. Therefore, it might be interesting for us. So the interesting thing here is we can follow or we can try to build a path according to our preferences. And this again gives us sufficient or interesting, previously unknown information about the search space. And we can learn, of course, we can explore. So this is an example of search space exploration and exploratory search. So we have already seen this example in the last part of the lecture. This again is also the Media Explorer, which is available here at the Jovisto blog or at refer.cx. So with this, again, you are also able to navigate, not also in the information which is displayed in a blog article, but you also have the possibility to click, of course, on these items that you see here in this data map, in this map of connected entities for exactly that blog page. And if you click on it, you will see information about that entity, and here you see on the left side a set of articles which will be recommended to you because they are somehow related, closely related to the original article. So this is also some kind of data exploration, of information exploration, of exploratory search that has been implemented here. So this offers new and interesting possibilities to our search experience in general. Not only because we have different kind of, let's say, information needs. Not always we really know specifically what we are looking for. Sometimes we simply want to discover new things. And to achieve this technology of exploratory search is the way to go. Okay, so with this, we end the official part of the lecture. And there are now a few parts of in-depth lectures where you can get more knowledge, deeper knowledge of the topics we have already treated in the lecture. So the first one of these extra topics will be, again, a visit at named entity resolution. And here we will tell you in detail how named entity resolution might be achieved.